kind of quiet, which is bad timing because I just put a bite of sandwich in my mouth. I'm David Cleland, I'm Head of School of Planning, Architecture and Civil Engineering. Can I first welcome all of you here this lunchtime, and hope you've had a chance to grab something to eat and to drink. And particularly welcome those who are from outside the school, and particularly on that to Kathy, who's going to chair. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Value ageing is a key project of the 7th Framework Programme of the European Commission. It's dealing with strategic matters of evolving research and industries that respond to the European demographic change and emergent ageing societies. I was just talking to a colleague at coffee time whose mother is 90, and we were talking about all the challenges of ageing. So it is all around us. It's possibly one of the biggest challenges facing the Western world. The project is a collaborative effort between academia and industry as part of the Marie Curie Industry Academia Partnerships and Pathways. And it includes 9 partners from 6 European countries and has been running for almost 42 months, with 6 months remaining for the dissemination of its findings. It aims to contribute to the school to spaces collaboration with commercial entities in the UK and Europe to advance knowledge and expertise between the two sectors and help the school enlarge its outreach in the European research and industrial market. Many people have contributed and benefit from the participation in this project, including former staff in space, such as Kareem Hadjri, currently Gamal and Ella Krajcek, and research students, 4 from Queens overall, 2 from architecture and 2 from psychology. And we've welcomed 3 European young researchers from industry, including Beatrix Corral. It's worth acknowledging the support Space Team received from colleagues of psychology, especially Kathy Craig, who I mentioned earlier, in reviewing the final research report. At this point is a useful stage to hand over to Kathy, who's Head of Psychology at Queen's, and who's going to chair the event. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks very much, David. I'm delighted to be here. When Gamal asked me if I wanted to chair this, I was like, oh no, something else I have to do. But it gives me great pleasure actually, because as David said, I actually read the report, which in fact is a great pleasure for me to read, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But I think what we'll do first of all is we're going to get more of an overview for all of you what the project is actually about. So Gamal's going to start with a little bit of an overview of what the project is. Gamal's a lecturer here in the School for Planning, Architecture and Civil Engineering. He's the PI for Queen's on this project, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the project structure and what different reports had to be delivered by Queen's. Over to you, Gamal.
Thanks. So I wish to thank David and the school for the support that we have been receiving over the last 4 years, almost 4 years now, and for Kathy for the tremendous support that she offered this project, because perhaps of the shared interest of the aging agenda and research areas. What I will be trying to do now is just to give a glance about how does this project work, how long it established, and the organization, because a project like value aging, and when it's funded by the European Commission, it's really meant to be more than a kind of smaller research task. It's about really collaboration. It's about bringing industry and academia into a shared agenda to develop the policies and the future agenda for the EU. So in general, it's important how do we approach the notion of aging. Aging, I think, at the core of this project is about the understanding of aging as not just a biological condition, but it's about a social issue. It's about the social situation in which people come to a certain part of their lives, and how do they incorporate and be challenged by certain situations in social matters, in a kind of living, quality of living, and about the environment as well. So in aging here, it's not about really providing some facilities or tools to help people to just sit and enjoy interesting technology, but it's about really providing more meaningful kind of addition to the agendas, the future agenda and development. So I will just use that one. Doesn't work. Obviously, as perhaps we know that Europe is having the highest age profile in the world. And by looking at the percentage of how aging the population societies are coming here, you will see that perhaps the red areas where this is the most intense change and demographic change in some countries, and you will see here in some parts of the UK and Ireland, one of those countries, that's Ireland and Northern Ireland, is about changing very fast, and that's why perhaps we are committed to respond to this challenge by really trying to help to inform the agenda, the EU agenda, and the practice and industries as well. So through the EU Commission and most of its directives and legislation, just really try to look at two things. First, the social change, social development, and how we can really enhance the quality of living for the people living within the EU. But at the same time, it's looking about the economic agenda, how to make a more intelligent, more technological-led industry, and how does this industry and innovation really bring these kind of social realities into a kind of more enhanced life or living standards. By doing that, they start to just take these two strands, technology and industry from one side, and the social change from another side. And just try to look at what kind of this project should be about, both sociology, social change, and demographic change, and technology. So in fact, to start to look at what we are looking at is not really about technical standards that try to systemize the people of older adults and try to make them really part of a machinery world. But in fact, it's trying to understand how technology just really can embed some kind of values, some kind of dignities, some kind of issues. How do you live in a house or in your home or being offered a service from a kind of intelligent company? But in fact, it's just really acknowledge that you have some special needs. You need to really have simpler terms, simpler technology, simpler language to deal with in order to engage with it. So in fact, it's not about technology, but it's about engaging, about bringing this kind of industry and technological innovation into really society again. So we look here about how such kind of aim can be translated into a research project. And we look at, it's just really about incorporation in interdisciplinary research. So academics like ourselves, we cannot really do this on our own. We need to bring the industry and designers on how can their products really fit for purpose for this kind of social development. So we need to really look at how older people being more connected, socially active, having an access to supportive learning platforms. So it's not really making the technology or making intelligent house or building, but really try to get them to learn how to use it, and how the economy being part, how older people becoming part of the economy, and therefore they are useful and they can be supported. So in this project, as perhaps David mentioned, it's Stephen Kenmore and industry academia. So we have the balance between the industry and academic institutions, and we look here that we have different countries from Italy, from Spain, from Austria and Germany, and every one of them is offering different things. So in Queens, for example, here, we are offering really knowledge in the built environment and understanding how the technology and advanced issues of the sociology is just taken on board, while other institutions are specialized more in social sciences and social development and demographic studies, like our partners in Italy, but others as well just specialized in software development and technological products. The project has 7 main packages, and because we have so many partners, so everyone has its own speciality really leading a certain package. Among the 7 packages, every partner really will lead one package, but have their own staff and research students being sent to really work with other partners in different packages. So it's a little bit complex, but this is about collaboration. So here at Queens, and this is what Ella will be talking about it later, just we are leaders for the work package 3, where we lead ourselves, but in our objectives here, we have different reports and different tasks. And every one of other partners come and do this task under our supervision, and have researchers from other even partners come to work with them. And so it's a kind of a tree effect, where the leaders have to work really with at least 5-6 partners to produce certain research tasks. Beside our work package 3, we actually contribute to work package 1, and we work package 7, and minimum and contribution and reviewing for the rest. So we have, in a way, have a comprehensive knowledge about everything, and we have reviewed the reports for our partners. To give a kind of sense of magnitude of this project, so every one of these packages that incorporate between 6 and 8 different deliverables, which is a research report, it's about 100 to 200 pages, but really each one of them has its own methodology, has its own system, samples, investigation, so it's a kind of a smaller project within the bigger project. And as I mentioned, that from every partners contribute differently to each one of these kind of reports. So in general, we have now 33 research reports that have been completed. 15 research reports and outputs are still ongoing. This is different from the publications that we might follow. And we have 12 senior staff who are really full-time members of staff in each institutions. 32 secondary researchers really keep us moving, like we have here. Some of the audience here have contributed meaningfully to the products and the research process in different companies. We have 32 of them have gained massive experiences, and we have recruited 8 experienced researchers really of senior level staff. So this I kind of give you a kind of sense about how complex, how comprehensive this project is. In order just to give you a very quick sense about what this project is about, I just took here a few samples about a couple of projects, a couple of reports that we have done, not in our main packages, but really done with partners. So here, one of the reports, the task that we have led here with researchers from Italy, is actually about looking at the role of dignity and not discrimination, and how ICT products and businesses and market could really incorporate and embed these kind of values. At the EU, you are really looking at dignity, equality, non-discrimination, accessibility as basic values. So how do these things come with something like hard and very effective, like technology and software companies' products? So in a simple task like this, we looked at what e-accessibility and e-inclusion really means. We looked at the definition, the theory, and looked at all the EU documents. We investigated them, we critically reviewed them, and we enhanced the definitions. And we have really took it on board what the EU and what its policies needs to really accommodate in the next 10 or 15 years. And by looking at this, we are really progressing the agenda in that sense. We are trying to inform what the industry should be looking at. Similar to this about the law and policy trends, how do we really implement that in everyday life? And basically, we start to look at how can ICT be being user-centered. Is that really user-centered? Yes, when you look at any company now, product, it's really made for purpose, made to respond to certain need. But how, in fact, having this process by designing, developing, implementing, and after that testing the product is really there. So we don't have much information before we start about this. So we had to go and search within all Europe about these projects. So we have really investigated and surveyed most of the products, technology products, companies, research projects, even competitions that could really have informed or respond to this point. We have shortlisted 50 cases, 50 different companies and products that really could be looked at. And following that, we look at each one of them, the coverage area, how it's really, how much impact, which means that how spread it is around Europe, and how long the project was, is it private sector, is public sector, how did it really affect the people's living. Out of this, we start shortlist 10 of them. We start to see really they have some kind of quality, examples of best practices, where e-accessibility and e-inclusion and giving more respect and dignity for older people to live on daily life. One of them, this is a kind of a project about an adaptive vehicle, electric vehicle, that really was another funded project by the EU, but it's really developed a kind of models and prototypes for certain cars that really manage people, that help older people who are really suffered in work in the public space. This was on a research that the majority of older people really suffer from falls outside home. So how would you do really to develop that? So that researcher there just really investigated this issue and tried to develop design and prototypes, and developed this kind of prototypes that really work as a kind of human support to lead you for in daily movement. So it in fact interacts with the local and public support, public transport system. Another one, which is about really designing, because we are architects, perhaps we look at this. So it's 60% of people find it difficult to leave home because mainly the lack of toilet support for older people. They don't see the toilets or restrooms are really appropriate. And 57% choose restaurant based on restroom quality, if it's really accommodates their needs. So designer here is just really, again, another consortium develop a prototypes how this kind of toilet facilities can be really more dynamic, more responsive. It's not really about dimension, but it's about being interactive in a way. And both projects have proved really responsive to the initial questions, and we have very comprehensive analysis of each one of these projects. So in terms of finding for this particular report, there was a kind of there is a lot of documents, big volumes on e-accessibility and e-inclusion. But how does this definitions and understanding inform technology and designs, and even architecture design just it really was the kind of a gap in a way. So there was a need for really look at this anti-discrimination and exclusion and complex ICT innovations. For example, you design platform, but in fact, older people cannot use it because it's very complex to learn. How to really deal with that online banking, for example. Very few older people can deal with that, but there are softwares, and one of the cases that we studied really enhances these platforms mainly to suit older people. So ICT production must be user-centered to meet actual needs. Another one, but just very quickly, sorry, this is still part of the findings as well. So at the end of this report, we really offer recommendations, and that all the people needs to be looked at, not really keep saying it as a tag, vulnerable people, but they need to have the advantage of being offered special treatment to reach inequality. So differential treatment is sometimes necessary to ensure equal outcomes, and also recognize that inequality can result from direct or indirect discrimination. So this is something that we need to look at in every design step. So users have to be part of the design from the start. Another one which is more relevant to our architecture, this is our partner in Spain, who looked at the smart home concept. And we have here worked with our partners in Dundalk, in Ireland, about their home support system for older people. And interestingly, while you are making all design really fit for their need, in fact, there were some negative emphasis about how the older people living at home feel exactly occupied, because you are transmitting lots of data, you are giving up a lot of privacy, and in that case for them it's intimidating. You are feeling like you are controlled by security devices, by alarms, by elements that really keep sending information to medical staff or to somebody from elsewhere. So what you need to understand here is just, it's not about really giving something to say that older people will know and will use or useful to them, but in fact how they will really use them. It is really useful, it's helpful, or can be sometimes have its own negatives. So being connected, you need to understand for any new technology, even in the design of houses, to be embedded, not really clearly saying that I'm here to really control your life. But in fact, it should be interconnected, adaptive, personalized, and context aware. So, and still older people need to have some kind of input into it and control as well. So it's not really about this kind of building home labs that even this in Spain and even here in the docks that we really built, but it's about really how to get older people to decide about their design and organization. It's not making a physical product, but it's how this physical product respond and engage with the users. Another finding that users need to be at the center of this design process, and there are some kind of dimensions beyond technology that technology has to adapt and has to accommodate. And main part of this, in fact, is about dignity, it's about equality, it's about emotional, not physical dimensions. So social and cultural differences here play a major part, and there should be a balance between care, privacy, and autonomy. Just in general, this is a general statement about the value aging. it's trying to address gaps and concerns in the EU policies and direction for the future. So if we are able here to try to give them some insight about gaps, so this will help us to progress actually their agenda. And here we need to understand that aging well and socially responsive in the technology, this is where actually the future lies beyond. And perhaps Ella will talk a little bit about aging well, because this is how we are defining and informing the future of Europe. Insights on pathways into a pathway through which European values, dignity, inclusion, and non-discrimination are embedded in member states' policies. And this is how we bring the bigger image into different member states. And we are working about actually consultation with local authorities here in Ireland and in Europe as well, in Northern Ireland and Europe. So we have here issues that really need to understand. And main issue about the project was the number of people, and this is what we are doing here. It's about dissemination of research process and findings. So in fact, this is about collaboration, and everyone has a role to play to shape the bigger image. And hopefully this project will be really useful in informing the future.